Karoline Leavitt checked her appearance one last time in the mirror of her apartment. The navy blue dress fit her perfectly, elegant but not flashy. Tonight was important. After months of hard work behind the scenes, she would finally attend the big charity gala as a VIP guest. At 26 years old, Karoline had climbed quickly in her career as a communications director. Many people in Washington respected her work ethic and sharp mind. She grabbed her small purse and the gold-embossed invitation that clearly stated VIP seating in fancy letters. The Children's Hospital benefit was the biggest charity event of the season. Everyone who mattered in Washington would be there. Karoline had helped raise over $200,000 for the cause, making countless calls and arranging meetings with potential donors. This night felt like her reward. Her phone buzzed with a text from her driver. Car waiting downstairs, Ms. Leavitt. Karoline took a deep breath and headed out. The evening air felt cool against her skin as she stepped into the black town car. Jefferson Hall, please, she told the driver. The main entrance. The car moved smoothly through the Washington streets. Karoline watched the familiar buildings pass by, feeling a mix of excitement and nerves. This wasn't just any event. It was her chance to network with people who could help her career grow even more. She had prepared talking points and memorized names and faces of important guests who might be there. 20 minutes later, the car pulled up to Jefferson Hall. The historic building glowed with warm lights, and a red carpet stretched from the curb to the entrance. Photographers lined the sides, snapping pictures of arriving guests. Most were waiting for the big-name politicians and celebrities. But Karoline still walked confidently, smiling slightly as she passed. At the entrance, a young man in a black suit checked her invitation. Ms. Leavitt, welcome. Nathan Collins, event coordinator. He offered his hand, which she shook firmly. We're so glad you could join us tonight. Your work for the hospital fund has been amazing. Karoline smiled. Thank you, Nathan. I'm happy to be here. Let me show you to your seat. You're at table 3, which is right up front. Nathan led her through the crowded entry hall into the main ballroom. Karoline tried not to look too impressed, but the room took her breath away. Crystal chandeliers hung from the high ceiling. Fresh flowers decorated every table. The stage at the front had a backdrop of twinkling lights that looked like stars. At least 500 people would fit in this room. It was already filling up with women in elegant dresses and men in tuxedos. Here we are, Nathan said, stopping at a round table covered with a white tablecloth. A small card with Karoline Leavitt written in perfect script sat in front of one of the chairs. As you can see, you have an excellent view of the stage. The program will begin in about 30 minutes. Can I get you anything? A drink, perhaps? Just water for now. Thank you. Karoline sat down, placing her purse on the table. From this spot, she could see everything. The stage was only about 20 feet away. As Nathan left to get her water, Karoline looked at the other name cards on the table. Senator William Ford and his wife Patricia would be sitting across from her. The CEO of a major tech company would be on her right. These were exactly the connections she had hoped to make. Other guests began arriving at the table. An older couple introduced themselves as John and Mary Adams, major donors to the hospital. You must be Karoline, Mary said warmly. We've heard wonderful things about your fundraising work. Thank you, Karoline replied. Hospital does such important work. I'm just glad I could help. Soon, Senator Ford and his wife arrived. The senator was taller in person than he looked on TV, with silver hair and a deep voice. Ms. Leavitt, he said, I've been wanting to meet you. My chief of staff speaks very highly of your abilities. Karoline felt a rush of pride. That's very kind, Senator. I admire your work on the healthcare committee. More guests filled the ballroom. The noise level rose as people greeted each other, laughed, and caught up with friends and colleagues. Waiters moved smoothly between tables, serving drinks and appetizers. A small orchestra played soft music in the corner. Nathan returned with Karoline's water. Everything good here? Perfect, she assured him. The program will start soon. Have some amazing speakers tonight. He lowered his voice. Between us, there might be a surprise guest or two, not on the official program. Anyone I might know? Karoline asked. Nathan smiled. Let's just say we may have a former First Lady in the building tonight. Michelle Obama. Karoline couldn't hide her surprise. I didn't say that, Nathan winked, but keep your eyes open. He moved on to the next table. Karoline took a sip of her water, trying to stay calm. Michelle Obama was highly respected, even by people across the political aisle. Meeting her would be memorable, even if they had different political views. The lights dimmed slightly, a signal that the program would start soon. Karoline noticed people checking their phones one last time before putting them away. She did the same, switching her phone to silent mode. At the next table, someone mentioned Michelle Obama's name. Then another person at a different table said it louder. Karoline watched as heads turned toward the entrance. Something was happening. A buzz of excitement moved through the room like a wave. People stood up to see better. Karoline remained seated, but she could feel the change in energy. The orchestra stopped playing mid-song. Ladies and gentlemen, a voice announced over the speaker system, please take your seats. The program will begin in 5 minutes. Most people sat down, but staff members began moving quickly near the entrance. Karoline saw Nathan talking urgently with a woman in a black dress who she hadn't seen before. They both looked stressed. The woman nodded at whatever Nathan said, then looked directly at Karoline's table. She started walking over, with Nathan following behind. Here we go, Senator Ford murmured. Looks like the rumors were true. The woman in black reached their table and leaned down next to Karoline. Ms. Leavitt. I'm Samantha Lewis, event staff. Her voice was low, but tense. I need to speak with you privately for a moment. Karoline felt everyone at the table watching her. Is something wrong? Not exactly wrong, but we need to make a small adjustment. Samantha glanced nervously at the other guests. Could you step away from the table with me for just a minute? Karoline stood up, smoothing her dress. Of course. They moved a few steps away from the table. Nathan joined them, looking uncomfortable. Ms. Leavitt, Samantha began. We have a situation. Former First Lady Michelle Obama has arrived unexpectedly. She wasn't on our confirmed guest list until an hour ago. Okay, Karoline said slowly. What does that have to do with me? Nathan cleared his throat. Well, the thing is, we need to make room for her at the front. The foundation director insists she sit at one of the VIP tables with the best view. Karoline began to understand. And you want my seat? We have another place for you, Samantha said quickly. At table 27, still a good table. Table 27, Karoline repeated. That's in the back of the room. It's not ideal, I know, Nathan admitted. But this is Michelle Obama we're talking about. Surely you understand the situation we're in. Karoline felt her face grow warm. People from nearby tables were watching them now. She had worked for months on this fundraiser. Her invitation clearly stated VIP seating. And now, 5 minutes before the program started, they wanted to move her to the back of the room. My invitation says table 3, VIP seating, she said firmly. Yes, but this is an unusual circumstance, Samantha insisted. Mrs. Obama's security. Team needs her to be positioned where they can easily access her. This table is perfect for that. So my seat is being given away because I don't have a security team. Karoline tried to keep her voice steady. Please try to understand, Nathan said. This isn't personal. It's just protocol for a former First Lady. Karoline looked back at her table. Senator Ford was watching with interest. So were the Adamses. Everyone would see her being moved. Everyone would know she had been bumped for someone more important. I helped raise $200,000 for this event, Karoline said quietly. That's why I was given a VIP seat. A tall man in a dark suit approached them. Is there a problem here? His voice was deep and authoritative. No problem, George, Samantha said quickly. This is Karoline Leavitt. We're just explaining the seating change. George nodded at Karoline. Ms. Leavitt, I'm George Peterson, head of security for tonight's event. I apologize for the inconvenience. But we need to make this change immediately. Mrs. Obama will be entering the main room any minute now. Karoline looked from face to face, 3 against 1. And now people from other tables were openly staring at them. Your cooperation would be greatly appreciated, George said firmly, no longer bothering to keep his voice down. Karoline looked around the room. Everyone was watching now. She could feel her cheeks getting hot. This was not how she had planned her evening. "Fine," she said finally. "I'll move." Relief washed over Nathan's face. "Thank you for understanding. Ms. Leavitt, Samantha will show you to your new table." Karoline picked up her purse from table 3. She avoided looking at Senator Ford and the others as she gathered her things. The gold-embossed invitation that clearly stated VIP seating felt heavy in her hand. She slipped it back into her purse. "This way, please," Samantha said, gesturing toward the back of the room. Karoline followed her, keeping her head high. She could feel eyes on her as they walked. The distance to table 27 seemed endless. They passed table after table of important people, all seated close to the stage. With each step, they moved further from the action. "Here we are," Samantha said finally, stopping at a table near the back wall. A large column stood nearby, partially blocking the view of the stage. Most of the seats at table 27 were already filled with people Karoline didn't recognize. "There's your seat," Samantha pointed to an empty chair. No name card waited for Karoline here. "Can I get you anything?" "No, thank you," Karoline said coldly. Samantha hesitated, then nodded and walked away quickly. Karoline sat down, placing her purse on her lap. From this spot, the stage looked tiny and distant. The speakers would look like ants. "Hello," said the woman next to her. "I'm Betty Clark." "Karoline Leavitt," she replied, trying to smile. "Weren't you sitting up front a minute ago?" Betty asked. "I noticed when they moved you, so people had definitely noticed." Karoline nodded. "Yes, I was at table 3. "Why did they move you?" another woman at the table asked. Her name tag read Susan Porter. Before Karoline could answer, a murmur went through the room. Heads turned toward the entrance again. This time Karoline had to stand up to see anything at all from her position. Michelle Obama entered the ballroom, surrounded by staff and security. She wore a stunning red dress and smiled warmly as people applauded. George Peterson, the security head, led her directly to table 3, to Karoline's former seat. "Oh," Betty said quietly. "I see." Karoline sat back down. She watched as Michelle Obama greeted Senator Ford and his wife with hugs. The former First Lady seemed completely unaware that someone had been moved to make room for her. The lights dimmed further, and a man walked onto the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the annual Children's Hospital Benefit Gala." His voice boomed through the speakers. From table 27, Karoline could barely see him. She pulled out her phone and sent a text message to her colleague, Alan Murphy. "You won't believe what just happened. They moved me from my VIP seat to the back of the room to make space." "For Michelle Obama," Alan replied almost instantly. "Are you serious? That's terrible treatment after all your work for the event." "I know," she texted back. "Everyone saw it happen too." "That's just wrong," Alan responded. "Do you want me to do anything about it?" Karoline hesitated. What could Alan do? She typed, "No, it's fine. Just needed to vent." She put her phone away. As the first speaker began talking about the children's hospital, from her seat, Karoline could only see part of the slide presentation. The column blocked the right side of the stage. Betty leaned over. "So you worked on this event," she whispered. Karoline whispered back. "I helped raise funds for the hospital. That's why I was given a VIP seat originally." Betty frowned. "That doesn't seem right, what they did." "It's fine," Karoline said, though it wasn't. She tried to focus on the speaker, but it was hard to hear clearly from their location. A waiter brought drinks to their table. Karoline accepted a glass of wine this time. She needed it. As the first speaker finished, Karoline noticed Lisa Martinez, one of the main event organizers, looking in her direction from across the room. Their eyes met briefly before Lisa looked away quickly. Did she feel bad about what had happened? It was too late now. Karoline sipped her wine and checked her phone again. 3 new messages from Alan. Actually, this is newsworthy. His first text read, "A young Republican staffer who raised 2 moquets gets bumped from Michelle Obama. People should know about this," said the second. The third message made Karoline sit up straight. "Hope you don't mind, but I just texted my friend at the Daily Wire about it. She thinks it's a story worth covering." Karoline quickly typed, "Alan, I didn't say you could share this with the press." "Too late," he replied. "They're already interested. This is about respect, Karoline. You deserved better. Karoline put her phone down, feeling anxious. She hadn't meant for this to become a news story. She just wanted to enjoy the evening she had worked hard for. On stage, the second speaker was introducing Michelle Obama, who stood 2 more applause. From table 27, Karoline could barely see her. And now, though she wasn't originally on our program, we're honored to welcome former First Lady Michelle Obama to say a few words. The speaker announced Michelle Obama took the microphone, her voice clear and confident. Thank you for that warm welcome. I'm so happy to support the amazing work being done at Children's Hospital. As the former First Lady spoke, Karoline's phone buzzed again and again.
Dad?
She looked down to see messages from numbers she didn't recognize. Ms. Leavitt, this is Jordan Miller from the Daily Wire. Can you confirm you were removed from your seat for Michelle Obama tonight? Karoline Ryan Nelson from Fox News here. Would you be willing to comment on the incident? At the gala this evening? Hello, Ms. Leavitt. Stephanie Brown from the Washington Examiner. We're running a story about tonight's event and would like your statement. Karoline felt a wave of panic. How had they gotten her number so quickly? Alan must have shared it. Story was spreading faster than she had imagined possible. She glanced around the room nervously.
Oh.
They were all watching Michelle Obama speak. But across the room, Karoline noticed Nathan, the event coordinator, looking at his phone with a worried expression. Then he showed his screen to Samantha, whose eyes widened. They both looked in Karoline's direction. The story was getting out, and the event staff knew it. Michelle Obama finished her brief remarks to enthusiastic applause. As she returned to her seat at table 3, Karoline saw Lisa Martinez hurrying over to speak with Nathan and Samantha. Their conversation looked intense. Lisa kept glancing toward Karoline. During the applause, Betty leaned over again. What are you? Okay? You look upset? I'm fine, Karoline lied. Just tired. The program continued with a video about children who had been treated at the hospital. The lights dimmed completely. In the darkness, Karoline saw her phone light up with more incoming messages. She turned it face down on the table. When the lights came back up, Karoline noticed George Peterson, the security head, talking into his earpiece while looking directly at her, nodded at whatever he was hearing, then started walking toward table 27. Karoline's heart raced. What now? George reached her table and bent down next to her chair. Ms. Leavitt, he said quietly. Would you come with me, please? Why? She asked, suddenly nervous. Ms. Martinez would like to speak. With you in private? The others at the table watched curiously as Karoline stood up. She followed George through the ballroom toward a side door. They passed table 3 on the way. Michelle Obama was engaged in conversation with Senator Ford, still unaware of any problem. George led Karoline into a small room off the main hall. Lisa Martinez was waiting there, looking stressed. Yes, Ms. Leavitt, Lisa said as soon as the door closed behind them. We have a situation. What kind of situation? Karoline asked, though she already knew. It seems that information about your seating change has been leaked to the press. Lisa's voice was tense. Several news outlets are already running with the story. They're calling it disrespectful treatment of a Republican staffer in favor of Michelle Obama. I didn't contact the press, Karoline said honestly. But someone did, Lisa replied. And now it's becoming a major distraction from our fundraising efforts. Social media is already picking it up. George checked his phone. It's trending on Twitter, he confirmed. Lisa sighed heavily. This is a disaster for the foundation. We've worked so hard on this event. So did I, Karoline pointed out. That's why I was given a VIP seat in the first place. Lisa had the grace. To look embarrassed? Yes, I know. The decision to move you was perhaps not well considered. Perhaps, Karoline raised an eyebrow. What we need now, Lisa continued, ignoring the comment, is damage control. Would you be willing to issue a statement saying there was no problem? That you voluntarily gave up your seat when you heard Michelle Obama was coming? Karoline stared at her in disbelief. You want me to lie? Lisa Martinez crossed her arms. It's not a lie. It's just putting a positive spin on what happened. But that's not what happened, Karoline said firmly. You didn't ask if I wanted to give up my seat. You told me I had to move for Michelle Obama. George checked his phone again. The story is spreading fast. Someone posted a photo of Ms. Leavitt being moved from her table. Lisa looked alarmed. A photo? Who'd take a photo of that? Everyone has phones, Karoline pointed out, and everyone was watching. Lisa began pacing the small room. This is becoming a nightmare. The hospital fundraiser is being overshadowed by politics. I didn't make it political, Karoline said. I just wanted to enjoy the evening from the seat I earned. Lisa stopped pacing and faced Karoline directly. What do you want? What do you mean? To make this go away? What do you want? A public apology? Your seat back? Money, Karoline felt insulted. I don't want money. I raised money for the hospital because I believe in their work. Then help us fix this, Lisa pleaded.
What?
The children who need the hospital are the ones who will suffer if this fundraiser fails. Karoline thought for a moment. It wasn't fair for her. Lisa to put this on her, but she did care about the hospital's mission. I won't lie, she said finally. But I could release a statement saying, I understand that accommodating a former First Lady required last-minute changes, and that the Foundation's work is more important than seating arrangements. Relief showed on Lisa's face. That would be helpful, very helpful, on one condition, Karoline added. The Foundation acknowledges that the situation was handled poorly. Lisa hesitated, then nodded. I think we can agree to that. George's phone buzzed again. He checked it and frowned. We need to get back out there. The program is at intermission and people are asking questions. Let's go, Lisa said.
Karoline.
Would you mind returning to your table for now? We'll work on the statements and speak again before the event ends.
Ah!
Karoline nodded and followed. Then back into the main ballroom. The lights were up for intermission, and people moved between tables, chatting and networking. As they entered, Karoline noticed that many heads turned in their direction. She felt like everyone knew what had happened. At table 3, Michelle Obama was no longer seated. Karoline wondered if the former First Lady had left already, or was just taking a break. I'll check in with you later, Lisa said to Karoline before. Hurrying off to speak with other staff members, Karoline made her way back to table 20. As she walked, a man she didn't know stepped into her path. Ms. Leavitt, Richard Young? I'm a donor to the hospital. He offered his hand, which Karoline shook. I saw what happened earlier. Not very professional of him. Concern, Mr. Young, Karoline said, unsure what else to say. I've spoken to several board members about it, he continued. They weren't aware of how you were treated. I think you'll find they're quite upset about it. Karoline was surprised. You spoke to the board. Several of us did, Richard said, gesturing to a group of well-dressed people nearby. The Foundation depends on donors like us. We expect them to treat everyone with respect, regardless of political affiliation. I appreciate that, Karoline said, genuinely touched. But I don't want this to hurt the hospital. Or do we, Richard assured her. But accountability matters. As Richard walked away, Karoline continued to her table. When she sat down, Betty looked at her with curiosity. Everything okay? Betty asked. You were gone a while? Just sorting some things out, Karoline replied vaguely. She checked her phone and was shocked to see dozens of missed calls and messages. The story had exploded online. News sites had headlines like Young Republican Staffer, publicly humiliated to accommodate Michelle Obama, and political favoritism overshadows charity event. There were messages from her parents, friends, and colleagues. Even her boss had texted. Just saw the news. Call me when you can.
Wow.
Karoline felt overwhelmed. This was becoming much bigger than she had expected. She scrolled through Twitter and saw thousands of comments about the incident. Some people defended the event organizers, saying a former First Lady deserved special treatment. Others were outraged on Karoline's behalf, calling it disrespectful. A new message from Alan popped up. Are you seeing all this? You're trending nationwide. Multiple news networks want to interview you. Karoline didn't respond. She didn't know what to say. This was supposed to be a simple charity event, a chance to network and feel proud of her fundraising work. Now it had turned into a media circus. The lights dimmed again, signaling the end of intermission. Karoline looked toward table 3 and saw that Michelle Obama had returned to her seat. The former First Lady seemed to be having an intense conversation with someone Karoline couldn't see clearly. The program resumed with more speakers talking about the hospital's work. Karoline tried to focus, but her phone kept buzzing with new messages. Finally, she turned it off completely, halfway through. The next speaker's presentation, Karoline noticed Nathan, the event coordinator, approaching her table. He leaned down next to her chair. "Ms. Leavitt, Mrs. Obama would like to speak with you," he whispered. Karoline was stunned. "Michelle Obama wants to talk to me." Nathan nodded. "She just found out what happened. She's quite upset about it." Karoline felt nervous suddenly. "What should I do? If you're willing, I can take you to meet her after this speaker finishes," Nathan suggested. In a private room, away from all these eyes, Karoline thought about it. Meeting Michelle Obama under these circumstances wasn't what she had imagined. But maybe it would help resolve the situation. Okay, she agreed. When the speaker finished, Nathan led Karoline out of the ballroom through a different door than before. They walked down a hallway to a small meeting room. Nathan knocked once, then opened the door. Michelle Obama stood near a window, looking regal in her red dress. When she saw Karoline, she smiled warmly. "Ms. Leavitt, thank you for coming," the former First Lady said. "Please, come in." Nathan closed the door, leaving the two women alone. "Adelaise," Michelle Obama said immediately. "I had no idea they moved you from your seat for me. I would never have allowed that if I had known." Karoline was surprised by the direct apology. "Thank you, Mrs. Obama. I appreciate that. Please, call me Michelle." She gestured to two chairs. "Shall we sit?" They sat facing each other. Michelle looked genuinely concerned. "I understand you worked very hard on fundraising for the hospital," she said. Karoline nodded. "Yes, it's a cause I care about deeply. That's why this situation is so upsetting," Michelle continued. "We should be celebrating your work, not creating unnecessary drama." "I agree," Karoline said. "I never wanted this to become a big story." Smiled slightly. "Sometimes these things take on a life of their own." She paused. "I understand the press is involved now." "Yes," Karoline admitted. "My colleagues shared what happened with a reporter, and it spread from there. That's how it goes these days," Michelle said with a small sigh. "Everything becomes political so quickly. But I want you to know that from my perspective, this has nothing to do with politics. It's about respect. Everyone who works hard for a good cause deserves to be treated with dignity." Karoline felt a strange sense of connection with the former First Lady, despite their different political views. "Thank you for saying that. I've asked the foundation to issue a formal apology to you," Michelle continued. "Not just for your sake, but because it's the right thing to do." "They mentioned releasing a statement," Karoline said. "Good, and I'd like to make my own statement as well, making it clear that I never would have taken your seat had I known the circumstances." Before Karoline could respond, there was a knock at the door. Nathan poked his head in. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but Mrs. Obama, your security team says we need to wrap this up, and Ms. Leavitt, the foundation president, is looking for you."
Oh.
Stood. "Thank you for your understanding, Karoline, and for your work supporting the hospital." Karoline stood as well, feeling strangely calm now. "Thank you for taking the time to speak with me." They shook hands, and Nathan led Karoline back toward the ballroom. As they walked, he looked nervous. "The foundation president wants to meet with you right away," he said. "Howard Matthews. He flew in from New York when he heard what was happening." "Is that bad?" Karoline asked. Nathan didn't answer directly. "He's waiting in the director's office."
They
Took a different turn and arrived at a large office with Carol Bennett, foundation director, on the door. Nathan knocked, then opened it without waiting for a response. Inside, a tall man with gray hair stood looking out the window. He turned as they entered. "Ms. Leavitt," he said, his voice deep and serious. "I'm Howard Matthews, president of the foundation. We need to talk about what happened tonight." Howard Matthews gestured to a chair in front of the desk. "Please sit down." Karoline sat, feeling nervous again. Howard Matthews was a powerful man. He ran the entire foundation that supported children's hospitals across the country. His time was valuable, yet here he was, dealing with this situation personally. Nathan hovered by the door until Howard gave him a look. "That will be all for now, Nathan." Nathan left quickly, closing the door behind him. Howard sat in the chair behind the desk and studied Karoline for a moment. Ms. Leavitt, I want to apologize for what happened tonight, he said finally. It was unacceptable. Karoline hadn't expected such a direct apology. Thank you, Mr. Matthews. I've reviewed the situation with Carol Bennett, our director, Howard continued. She showed me the security footage from the ballroom and shared the messages between staff members about the seating change. There's security footage, Karoline asked, surprised. Howard nodded. Yes, the venue has cameras throughout the public areas. They show clearly what happened. He turned a laptop on the desk so Karoline could see the screen. It showed a view of the ballroom from above. Howard pressed play. On the screen, Karoline could see herself sitting at table 3. Then, Samantha and Nathan approached. The conversation was silent on the video, but the body language told the story. Karoline looked upset. The security head, George, joined them. Eventually, Karoline gathered her things and followed Samantha to the back of the room.
The camera.
Angles switched to show them arriving at table 20-7. Howard stopped the video. The audio from the staff's earpieces was also recorded. They were quite ... insistent about moving you. Yes, they were, Karoline agreed. What troubles me most, Howard said, is that this decision was made without proper authority. The foundation board, or executive team. A few staff members took it upon themselves to rearrange our VIP guests. I see, Karoline said. Not sure where this was going. Mrs. Obama herself just spoke with me, Howard added. She's extremely unhappy about how this was handled. She told me she would never have accepted that seat had she known someone else was being displaced. She said the same thing to me, Karoline confirmed. Howard looked surprised. You've spoken with her already? Yes, just now. She apologized personally. Howard nodded, looking impressed. That speaks highly of her character. He paused. And of yours, for being willing to meet with her after what happened. Karoline shrugged slightly. It wasn't her fault. No, it wasn't, Howard agreed. But the damage to our event is real. Social media is flooded with this story. News outlets are covering it instead of focusing on our fundraising mission.
Ow.
Sorry about that, Karoline said sincerely. Never meant for this to become a big news story. I understand you didn't contact the press directly, Howard said. No, that was my colleague. He was upset on my behalf. Howard leaned back in his chair. Ms. Leavitt, the foundation values your contribution to our cause. The $200,000 you helped raise will make a real difference for sick children. That's all I wanted, Karoline said, to help the children. Which is why I hope we can work together to move past this unfortunate incident, Howard continued. The hospital's mission is too important to be overshadowed by this controversy. Agree completely, Karoline said. I told Lisa Martinez I would release a statement saying the hospital's work matters more than seating arrangements. Howard smiled slightly. That's generous of you. But I don't think you should have to make excuses for our staff's poor judgment. Turned to his laptop and typed something. I've drafted a statement from the foundation. I'd like your opinion on it before we release it. He turned the screen toward Karoline again. She read the statement carefully. The Children's Hospital Foundation sincerely apologizes to Karoline Leavitt for the disrespectful treatment she received at tonight's fundraising gala. Miss Leavitt, who worked tirelessly to raise substantial funds for our cause, was improperly removed from her earned VIP seat without proper consultation or approval from foundation leadership. This action does not reflect our values or standards. We are taking immediate steps to ensure such an incident never happens again. We deeply appreciate Ms. Leavitt's dedication to supporting children's health care and regret that her experience at our event did not properly honor her contribution. Karoline was surprised by the strong wording. This is very direct, she said. It should be, Howard replied. We made a mistake. The best response is to acknowledge it clearly and make it right. I appreciate that approach, Karoline said honestly. There's more, Howard said. He scrolled down to show the rest of the statement. Effective immediately. The foundation is implementing new protocols for event management. To ensure all guests are treated with respect, regardless of political affiliation or status, we remain committed to our mission of providing excellent health care for all children, and we hope this incident does not distract from the important work made possible by tonight's generous donors. This seems appropriate, Karoline said after reading it. Howard nodded, looking pleased. Good, we'll release it as soon as the event concludes. He closed the laptop. Now there's the matter of your seating for the remainder of the evening. That's not necessary, Karoline began. I disagree, Howard interrupted gently. Would you be comfortable returning to table 3? Mrs. Obama suggested it herself. She's being moved to sit with the hospital board members at the center table. Karoline hesitated. Going back to table 3 would be awkward now that everyone knew what had happened. I understand your hesitation, Howard said, reading her expression, but it would send a strong message about making things right. Karoline thought about it. Maybe it would help end this controversy if people saw her back in her original seat. All right, she agreed. Excellent, Howard said, standing up. Shall we return to the ballroom? The final speaker should be finishing soon. They left the office together and walked back toward the main event. In the hallway, they passed Samantha, Nathan, and George huddled together in intense conversation. All three looked up with surprise when they saw Karoline walking alongside the foundation president. Howard stopped. Ah, just the people I wanted to see. Ms. Lewis, Mr. Collins. Mr. Peterson, please come to this office at 9 a.m. tomorrow for a meeting about tonight's events. The 3 staff members exchanged nervous glances. Yes, sir, Nathan said, speaking. For all of them, Howard and Karoline continued to the ballroom. Sighed. The final speaker was just concluding her remarks. The audience applauded. Perfect timing, Howard murmured. He led Karoline directly to table 3. Senator Ford looked surprised when he saw them approach. Mr. Matthews, I didn't know you were here tonight. Special circumstances, William, Howard replied. He pulled out Karoline's original chair. Leavitt will be rejoining your table as originally planned. Karoline sat down, feeling awkward but also vindicated. From this seat, she could see the whole room again, including table 27 in the back. Betty Clark caught her eye and gave her a thumbs up. Michelle Obama was now seated at the center table with the hospital board members. She noticed Karoline back at table 3 and gave her a small nod. Howard leaned down to speak quietly to Karoline. I'll be making some closing remarks shortly. After that, there's a small reception in the next room. I hope you'll stay. Gorse, Karoline said. Howard walked to the stage and took the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming tonight. Before we conclude, I want to say a few words. The room fell silent. Everyone seemed surprised to see the foundation president on stage. Tonight we've raised over $3 million. For children's health care, Howard announced, prompting applause. This incredible generosity will change lives. Every child deserves the best medical care, regardless of their family's circumstances. He paused, his expression becoming more serious. I also want to address an incident that occurred earlier this evening. A dedicated young fundraiser was improperly removed from her seat in a manner that did not reflect our foundation's values. On behalf of the entire organization, I apologize to Ms. Karoline Leavitt. Murmurs spread through the room. Many heads turned toward table 3, where Karoline sat trying to remain composed. In healthcare, we believe in accountability, Howard continued. When mistakes happen, we acknowledge them, learn from them, and do better. That's what our foundation will do now. We will ensure that all our guests and supporters are treated with equal respect, regardless of their political views or connections. The audience applauded, some people standing. Richard Young, the donor who had spoken to Karoline earlier, was on his feet clapping loudly. Thank you all for your support, Howard concluded. Please join us next door for the reception. People began to stand and move toward the reception. Karoline's phone buzzed. She had turned it back on during Howard's speech. It was Alan again. Are you seeing this? His message read. Matthews just publicly apologized to you. This is huge. Before Karoline could respond, Senator Ford leaned across the table. Ms. Leavitt, you've made quite an impression tonight. Not exactly how I planned to, Karoline admitted. Sometimes the most important impressions are the ones we don't plan, the senator said with a smile. Howard Matthews is not a man who apologizes. Easily, you must have made quite a case. The reception room glowed with soft lighting. Small groups of people stood chatting, holding drinks and small plates of food. Karoline entered, feeling strangely calm after all the drama of the evening. Several people smiled at her, or nodded in recognition as she passed. Carol Bennett, the foundation director, approached Karoline immediately. "Ms. Leavitt, I want to personally apologize for what happened tonight. I was dealing with other aspects of the event and wasn't aware of the seating change until it was too late." "Thank you, Ms. Bennett," Karoline replied. "Appreciate that. Howard told me you were very gracious about the whole situation," Carol continued. "That says a lot about your character." Before Karoline could respond, her phone rang. It was her boss, Peter Graham. She excused herself from Carol and found a quiet corner to take the call. "Karoline, are you okay?" Peter asked when she answered. "I'm fine," she assured him. "It's been an unusual evening, but things are working out." "I've been watching this unfold online," Peter said. "The foundation president publicly apologized to you?" "Yes, he did, both privately and during his closing remarks." "Impressive," Peter said. "You handled this perfectly, not making a scene when it happened, but not letting them sweep it under the rug either." "I didn't really do anything," Karoline admitted. "My friend Alan contacted the press without telling me." Peter chuckled. "Sometimes having loyal friends is half the battle. Listen, I just got a call from Congressman Wilson's office. He saw the news and wants to meet with you tomorrow." Karoline was surprised. "Congressman Wilson? Why?" "He was impressed by how you handled yourself. Said it showed grace under pressure. He's looking for a new communications director for his office." "Are you serious?" "What?" Karoline couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Completely serious," Peter confirmed. "This could be a big opportunity, Karoline. A step up from your current position." Karoline felt overwhelmed. "I need some time to think about it. Of course, we can talk more tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your evening. It seems like things have turned around." After ending the call, Karoline took a moment to process this new development. What had started as an embarrassing incident might actually lead to a career advancement. She rejoined the reception, accepting a glass of champagne from a passing waiter. As she sipped it, Howard Matthews approached with Michelle Obama beside him. "Ms. Leavitt," Howard said warmly, "I hope you're enjoying the reception more than the earlier part of the evening." "Much more, thank you," Karoline replied. Michelle Obama smiled at her. "I wanted to check in with you once more before I leave." "Are you doing okay after all this?" "I am," Karoline said honestly. "Thank you for asking." "Good," Michelle said. "Sometimes these public moments can be overwhelming, especially when they weren't planned." "I'm learning that," Karoline agreed. A tall man in a suit approached them. "Mrs. Obama, the car is ready whenever you are." Michelle nodded. "Thank you, I'll be right there." She turned back to Karoline. "It was a pleasure meeting you, despite the circumstances. Keep up the good work for causes you believe in." "Thank you, Mrs. Obama. Safe travels." As Michelle Obama left with her security team, Howard stayed with Karoline. "That was gracious of her to check on you again." "Yes, it was," Karoline agreed. "Between us," Howard said quietly, "she was quite upset when she learned what had happened. She made it very clear to me that she never wants to be part of such a situation again." Karoline could believe that. Despite their different politics, Michelle Obama had been nothing but kind to her. "Mr. Matthews," Karoline began, "what will happen to the staff members involved?" "Nathan, Samantha, and George." Howard's expression became serious. "There will be consequences. What form those take will be decided tomorrow." Before he could say more, Richard Young joined them. "Howard, I've been looking for you." "Ms. Leavitt, I'm glad to see you back where you belong. Thank you for your support earlier, Mr. Young." Karoline said, "Call me Richard, please." And it was nothing. "I just believe in fairness." Several of us major donors were discussing the situation. "We want to make sure nothing like this happens at future events." "I assure you it won't," Howard said firmly. Richard nodded, satisfied. "Good, because we support this foundation for the children, not for politics." The reception continued pleasantly. Karoline met several important people who seemed genuinely interested in her fundraising work. Senator Ford introduced her to other political figures, expanding her professional network considerably by the UHEZ. Time Karoline called for her car at the end of the evening. She felt like the night had been strangely successful, despite the earlier drama. Her phone continued to receive messages from news outlets wanting her statement, but she decided those could wait until tomorrow. The next morning, Karoline woke up to even more messages and missed calls. The story had continued to spread overnight. She made coffee and sat down to sort through everything. A text from Alan caught her attention. "Have you seen the Foundation's official statement? It's even stronger than Matthew's speech last night." Karoline quickly found the statement online. It was the same one Howard had shown her, but seeing it published officially made it more real somehow. Comments beneath the statement were mostly positive, praising the Foundation for taking responsibility as she scrolled through her phone. Karoline received an email from Carol Bennett, Ms. Leavitt. "I wanted to update you on the meeting that took place this morning with the staff members involved in last night's incident. After reviewing all evidence and consulting with the board, we have made the difficult decision to terminate the employment of Nathan Collins, Samantha Lewis, George Peterson, Lisa Martinez, and 3 other staff members who participated in the decision to relocate you. While this may seem harsh, the Foundation cannot tolerate actions that disrespect our supporters and potentially damage our reputation and mission. These individuals showed poor judgment that cost us donors trust and overshadowed an otherwise successful fundraising event. We hope this decisive action demonstrates our commitment to treating all supporters with equal respect, regardless of political affiliation. We remain deeply grateful for your understanding, continued support of children's healthcare. Sincerely." Carol Bennett Foundation Director Karoline stared at the email in shock. 7 people fired over what happened to her. She hadn't expected such severe consequences. She felt a mix of vindication and discomfort. She hadn't wanted anyone to lose their jobs. Her phone rang. It was Peter Graham again. "Good morning, Karoline. Have you heard the news? About the staff being fired?" "Yes, I just got an email from Carol Bennett." "That's not the only news," Peter said. "Michelle Obama released a statement too. She said she was deeply troubled by how you were treated, and that respect must cross political lines when working for important causes." "Wow," Karoline said, genuinely surprised. "Your meeting with Congressman Wilson is set for 2 p.m. today," Peter continued. "But you might want to know that 2 other congressional offices have called me this morning asking about you." "Really? Which ones?" "I'll fill you in when you get to the office," Peter said. "But Karoline, I think it's safe to say your career just got a significant boost. Being graceful in a difficult public situation caught a lot of important people's attention." After ending the call, Karoline sat quietly, thinking about everything that had happened. What began as an embarrassing moment had turned into something much bigger. 7 people had lost their jobs. Michelle Obama had spoken up for her. Multiple congressional offices were interested in hiring her, all because she had been moved from her seat at a charity event. Her phone buzzed with a text from Betty Clark, who had sat beside her at table 27. "Just saw the news about the staff getting fired." "Wow, you doing okay with all this attention?" Karoline replied, still processing everything. "It had been a wild 24 hours. Betty texted back quickly, "I bet. For what it's worth, you handled yourself with real class last night. Those staffers made their own bad decisions." Karoline appreciated Betty's support. She decided to get ready for her meeting with Congressman Wilson. As she showered and dressed in her best suit, she thought about how quickly life can change. One moment of disrespect had led to consequences nobody could have predicted. She picked up her phone one more time before leaving her apartment and saw a news alert. "Foundation staff fired after VIP seating controversy. A lesson in respect across political lines." The story had become much bigger than just her experience. It had touched on something many people felt strongly about: the need for respect despite political differences. In a divided country, perhaps that was why this story had resonated so deeply. As Karoline headed out the door to what might be a life-changing meeting, she made a mental note to call Alan later and thank him. His impulsive action of contacting the press had set all of this in motion. Sometimes, Karoline thought, the most unexpected moments can lead to the most important changes in our lives. She stepped outside into the bright morning sunshine, ready to face whatever came next.